So for the last 2.5 years now, Wooting has made the best gaming keyboards in the world. And I'm not saying that as a flashy hook or some delusional statement, they are simply that good. So naturally, when I saw that they were doing their first collaboration with the YouTuber Optimum, essentially building his dream keyboard, I had to check it out. Now, if you're not already familiar with what makes Wooting keyboards so good, a big part of it has to do with their use of analog switches. Where traditional keyboard switches are digital, meaning they simply register presses as on or off, these analog switches use Hall effect technology, basically magnets and sensors to detect the depth of a key press at any given point. And as you can probably imagine, this enables a ton of customization. Things like lighter or harder key presses controlling the speed of a car in a racing game, for example. But for me personally, and probably for a lot of you competitive FPS gamers out there, one of the most exciting things about this keyboard is being able to set your own custom actuation point. This essentially means you can set how far the key needs to be pressed before it activates. So for example, I have my WASD keys and other keys that I hit pretty regularly set at a lower activation point so they're more responsive. Whereas other keys where you don't want to find yourself hitting them accidentally, you can set to something like 4mm, so it has to be an intentional press for that key to activate. And the custom actuation points already make this keyboard feel incredibly responsive, but you can actually take it one step further by enabling something called rapid trigger. Instead of pressing a key down and having to release it back to a certain point for the key to reset, the reset actually happens the moment you start releasing the key. And this combined with custom actuation points, you're left with an unbelievably responsive feeling keyboard. It's hard to explain, but it almost feels like the keyboard is anticipating your movements in real time. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it even goes one layer deeper. Wooting has a patent pending feature they're calling Rappy Snappy, which watches two keys like A and D if you're strafing, for example, and will always activate the one that's pressed the furthest. Now, this makes things like counter strafing in FPS games incredibly OP. In fact, so much so that CS2 actually banned this feature from their game. But the point is, internally here, you're getting an incredibly powerful gaming keyboard. Also, if you're wondering the difference between the 60HE and the 60HE Plus, the 60HE Plus just has a slightly customized PCB to allow for screw-in stabilizers, but that's literally the only difference. All right, so while Wooting's incredible performance is really nothing new here, what is new is this Project Optimum release. And what you're getting here is an incredibly beautiful custom case and keycap set for the Wooting 60. Now, this whole keyboard screams minimalist, which I personally really like. The case has this gun gray anodized finish. You get these nice rounded corners, super thick bezels, and I'm also a big fan of the mirror accent they added as well. I think that really adds a premium feel to the case. They went with a more low profile typing angle here, which I found to be totally comfortable when it comes to things like gaming, of course. Unlike a lot of other high-end keyboards, this one has a really nice weight to it. I don't know what it is, there's something just so satisfying to me about the feeling of a heavy keyboard. Assembly is pretty straightforward. For the PCB mounting, there are some silicone dampers included for the standoffs, along with a layer of foam, as well as an optional friction fit pad, which I did end up using. The friction fit pad is a screw-free alternative to the sandwich pad you typically get with the 60HE Plus, and as the name implies, it uses friction to hold everything in place, which reduces noise inside the case for a cleaner sound. It also softens the key presses and makes for a more comfortable typing experience in my opinion, so I would definitely recommend going the friction fit pad route if you want a softer feel. For the switches themselves, I ended up going for the Gateron Jades. Obviously this all comes down to preference, but I personally really like the feel of these. And then continuing with the minimalist theme, you have completely blank gray keycaps outside of this small Optimum writing on the spacebar, and the keycap gray is pretty close to the case itself. I'd say depending on the lighting, the keycaps are maybe a touch brighter than the case, but ultimately I still think it looks really good. It sounds like the process of deciding which gray keycaps to go with the case was a long road, so I can definitely appreciate the attention to detail here. And while I realize that blank keycaps are not going to be for everyone, there's something about this look that I'm just personally a huge fan of. But the nice thing is, of course, you can buy things individually if you want, right? If you just want the case and you want to put your own set of keycaps on there, for example, I have some gray keycaps from Mode that I think might fit nicely on this board. You could do stuff like that. But man, when this build is finished and just sitting at my desk, I can't help but get excited to play games with it, and that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. Movement feels incredibly snappy once you've got those actuation points dialed in, and that combined with rapid trigger, essentially removing the issue of overlapping inputs with things like strafing, it really is unlike any gaming keyboard that I've ever tried. And of course, with those Gateron Jades and the friction fit pad, I also think it sounds fine pretty much straight out of the box. But yeah, putting this set together, you're really getting a collab from Wooting unlike anything that I've seen from them before. You're not only getting a case and keycap set that clearly has a lot of time and effort put into it, but you're also getting the best internals available in a gaming keyboard right now. Tested a couple different other Hall effect switch type keyboards, and all of them just seem to fall flat either in performance or packaging or software in some way compared to the Wooting. So of course I'm always going to be keeping an eye out for new gaming keyboard advancements out there, but this kind of sets the new benchmark for me. So unless something comes along and beats it, I don't think it's leaving my gaming setup anytime soon.